Some very special people that have dedicated their lives to the game of pool. As you will find out, they've all come here in different ways. They do different things. They're not all great pool players, but they've all contributed in their own little ways to the game of pool. And they deserve to be honored here tonight. If I could, please, I would like a standing ovation for these people. The class of 2010 New England Pool and Billiard Hall of Famers is about to enter the room, folks. Here they come. First of all, Bob Byrd from Rhode Island, Chase Byrd from New Hampshire, Hazen Shoney from New Hampshire, PJ Gonzalez representing the band from Salem, Massachusetts, Dave Fernandez from Vermont, Mark Columbian from Connecticut, Steve Booth from New Hampshire, Chris Adrian from Massachusetts, Bruce Bartoletta from Connecticut, Ron Brainsky from Massachusetts, next, this Papa Byrd. Thank you for your patience. Pama's had quite a career. She won the Women's National Amateur Championship in 1971 in Lansing, Michigan. She's competed in many women's tournaments. New England Open Women's Champion in 1972. Eastern U.S. Champion Women's in 1973 at Elizabeth, New Jersey. Capital City Opens Women's Champion in 1974 at Lansing, Michigan. She qualified and competed in 5 annual BCA U.S. Open Women's Divisions. Her best finish was 5th place in 1976 in Chicago, Illinois. She retired from tournament play in 1976 to pursue creation of a players organization. She's a monthly that happened to be the WPBA, right? This lady helped start women's professional pool. She was a monthly columnist for the National Billiard News. The title of her column was Bird's Eye View. Very catchy. She's a member of the Brunswick Corporation Advisory Staff for 4 years. Her experience includes she did trick shot exhibitions and personal appearances nationwide at trade shows, shopping centers, military installations, college campuses, and many other venues. Her news media, she's done news media and public contact. For television, she's been on television. She was on What's My Line in 1972. And the people did not guess what she did. She's been on CBS Sports Spectacular, Challenge of the Sexes in 1976 with Lou Buchera. She's had talk show appearances and video news features, including ABC's Nightly News. That's only page 1. Her other experiences include a personal periodic experience with with world-famous Billy Moscone. Periodic experiences with Minnesota Fest, also known as Rudolph Waltero. And she's been involved with many public and private fundraising events. She's co-founder and former director of a players organization, we discussed that, the WPNBA, which is now in its 35th year, thanks to you. She's an instructor for community colleges, pool courses, and provides other private lessons and classes. From 1978 through 1993, she was in pursuit of education. She had a corporate career, she was married, had a family, transferred by employees to Connecticut in 1982. She has a daughter, Elsie. She's also an avid player. Her induction into the WPBA Hall of Fame was in 2001. She's a member of the Pool Players Association of Connecticut on a basis, and she's been in that since 1993, and she still plays. And she's the first woman player in the APA in Connecticut with the skill level of 7. And she's a busy lady. She plays 4 nights a week, and she's captain of all 4 teams. Ms.
Thanks, Tom, for your introduction, and thank you to the New England Pool and Billiards Hall of Fame for this honor. It gives me great pleasure to address family, friends, and friends of the billiard industry here this evening. Some of you may know that in 1976, Madeline Whitlow, Larry Miller, and I founded the Women's Professional Billiards Alliance, later known as the Women's Professional Billiards Association, or the WPBA. Over the years, players and others in the business have expressed to me their curiosity about how the WPBA got its start. So I will try to answer those questions for you in the next 5 minutes or so. I'll describe for you the state of women's billiards at that time and the challenges we faced back then. I'll tell you about the goals we set and how we went about obtaining them. Then I'll share with you how far we've come and some of what we have left to do. Back in 1976, our nation was celebrating its bicentennial, and Jimmy Carter was elected president. Median household income was $12,700, and Rocky won the Oscar for Best Picture. In pocket billiards, straight pool was the game in vogue. Larry Lascotti edged up Steve Miserak for the national straight pool title, and Jean Belucas was the reigning women's champion at the age of 16. Women's sports were beginning to gain a place in sports media. Dorothy Hamill had skated her way to a gold medal at the Winter Olympics. Chris Everett won at Wimbledon, and these women had attained great fame. Women's billiards, however, was in its infancy. As few as 2 or 3 dozen women competed in tournaments around the country, and in most cases, for paltry prize money. In those days, all of us were vying for the same thing. We wanted to qualify for the most prestigious tournament of the day, the Billiard Congress of America's U.S. Open, held each year in Chicago. Open was really a misnomer because you could not play in this event without winning a qualifying tournament. Qualifying tournaments for women generally paid about $100 to the winner, which in most cases was not enough to cover travel expenses. There were exceptions. The tournaments offered by Dolly and Cy Ekstad in New London come to mind, and there were other promoters too, like Mike Ash, Joe Farhat, and Ray Abrams, who genuinely sought to advance women's pool and shored up their prize funds. In most events that had both a men's and women's division, the women's division seemed like an afterthought. There were many fewer players in the women's division, and prizes were a mere fraction of what the men were paid. So against this backdrop, Madeline, Larry, and I set out to start the only organization dedicated specifically to the advancement of women's billiards. Our 5 major goals can be stated as follows. Number 1, we wanted more than simply to ride the coattails of men at major events. We sought to promote our own tournaments with bigger prizes. Number 2, we wanted to search out sponsors for these tournaments and not just depend on the generosity of pool room owners. Number 3, we were tired of the BCA dress code and sought to develop our own standards. Number 4, we wanted to be able to assure our players that advertised prize funds would indeed be paid, because sadly, this was not always the case. But that's another story for another time. Number 5, most of all, we sought to publicize pool to women and to grow the number of women players. We knew for a fact that billiards was a great game for women as well as men, and we wanted to spread the word. We knew too that women were already familiar with pool tables because for years, in family rec rooms across the country, they had been folding laundry on them. So we placed the now famous ad in the National Billiard News and posed the question, are you a woman who doesn't need to wear a skirt to prove it? This must have struck a chord with the women players because virtually everyone who competed at the top levels of the game sent in her membership dues of $30. We knew we had arrived when we received a check from the great champion Dorothy Wise, and we immediately ran over and deposited it in the Feminist Federal Credit Union. Our first independent WPBA tournament was set for the fall of 1976 in Lansing, Michigan. Believe it or not, we raised money by going door to door to local businesses and selling them space on our advertising flyer. We encouraged the mayor to proclaim Women's Billiards Week, and we sent out press releases with biographies and photos to radio and TV stations as far away as Detroit. Straight pool was not going to be our game. We decided instead to play 6-ball, 8-ball, or 9-ball games that general audiences could more quickly grasp. The WPBA has over the years met our original goals. Prize funds have grown, sponsors have been recruited, television contracts have been signed, and player members such as Allison Fisher, Eva Mattia Lawrence, and Jeanette Lee have risen to significant fame and fortune. Even now, however, a great deal still needs to be done. For example, gaining additional sponsorship for women's billiards from outside the industry community. Perhaps when our national economy regains its strength, that sponsorship can be obtained. So now you know where we came from, what we set out to do, and how far the WPBA has come. Thank you very much for your attention, and thank you again for this most prestigious honor. I wish you all well in pursuit of your own goals in the world of pool and billiards. Thank you very much.